Somebody will never leave you. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. Somebody will never leave you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody. Let's get started this morning. Hey, everybody. And there we go. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome. Let's get Instagram going. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, VIP community. It is time to have a conversation. I am Royally. Hi there. How are you? Good to see you. Royalty. Good to see you there this morning on YouTube. Hey, conversation today is about who is running the show. Tomorrow, we're going to go in depth, deep into a 25-page workbook, tomorrow on your archetypes. This idea, the meditation that we listened to this morning, Kyle Cease, of the fear of money, and cool conversation about how when you find your space, find your place, find your mission in life, this thing that we are, I love you too. I am Royalty. I love you so very much. Thank you. So this conversation that we're having today is about when you are afraid to do the thing. That's probably, how many times do we hear that? That's probably the thing you need to do. And the question then is, who is running your show? Who is running your kingdom? If we had a conversation about you and your kingdom, who is running it? There's 4 primary archetypes. I'm going to go into a half dozen other archetypes as well when we talk about this. But let me give you a fundamental understanding of your archetypes. If you've been to a UPW, if you've been to a Tony Robbins conversation, you've probably heard about the archetypes. Now, we know that when we take personality tests, we're usually broken down into 4 different categories. And we have a dominant category. Yes, drop a D in the chat if you know we have a dominant category, one that we default operate from. And that's the key to understand this default. We can say we're nice and we're kind. How many people do you know? It's not you, but how many people do you know? How many people are you aware of that they're very nice? They're just nice. Everybody sees them as nice. But when they get triggered, they turn into the biggest a-holes on the planet. And they might be family, right? So if you know somebody who operates out of that functionality, it is their default mechanism. It is the thing they fall back on. And this is key to understand. Here's why it's so hard. This is why you struggle with programming. This is why you struggle with self-talk. This is why you struggle with getting your definite major purpose. This is why you struggle with problem after problem after problem after problem after problem. Drop a P in the chat if you know somebody who is just plagued with problems after problems after problems. They get high notes and then they got problems. They get high notes and then they get problems. They get high notes and they get problems. Here's why. It is your default operating system. It is your default mental activity. There's a default operating system in your body. I need you to hear this because this is where neuro encoding comes in. This is where neuro programming comes from. This is where self-talk comes from. It comes from your default methodology. When you get into fight or flight and you're not in rest and digest, because maybe you didn't know, that is the opposite, right? Everything is polar. Everything has opposites. And fight or flight, we talk about the fight or flight system, the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. When you get into fight or flight, you've taken your body out of something. Nobody seems to ever ask that question. If I get into fight or flight, nobody's ever asked me, what were you in before? What was I in before fight or flight? Nobody asks that. Because if you did, you'd hear this answer. You were in rest and digest. How many of you have heard of cortisol, right? That thing that makes that little band around your belly, a little bigger than you want, the stress hormone. See, out here on the ranch, when Fiona wants to go chase deer and she sees them and they're nicely eating in the back 30 acres of the land there, and they're eating there, and they're just walking along, nibbling, num. They look up, oh, trees, birds, right? And then they hear Fiona barking, woo, 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 woo. And they're like, ooh, better pay attention to that. And they go, ha, and they go, bink, 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 and off they jump. Fight or flight. They were in fight or flight, and they were flighting. They were the heck out of Dodge. 10 minutes later, they're back eating the grass like nothing happened. Here's the challenge. Sally gets pissed off by Frank at work, and she's talking about Frank for the next 20 years. That son of a bitch boss of mine, boy, I'm going to tell you, that guy, I hope he rots in hell and blah, blah, blah. And you were just absolutely, you were in fight or flight for the next 20 years talking about these things that happened 20 years ago. Frank's not even in the room anymore, Sally. And here's the challenge. Sit down. Here's the challenge. We let that archetype of fear run our life. So I'm going to have a conversation. There's 4 primary archetypes. There's your sovereign, right? King or queen. There's your lover. There's your warrior. And then there's your magician. The majority of us are operating out of our warrior archetype. Seamus, come here. That's the biggest challenge. We're operating out of this warrior type mentality. Everything is a fight. Everything is a challenge, and you are ready for a fight. How many of you are ready for a fight? Let me ask you this. How many of you know people who are ready for a fight? Drop an F in the chat if you know people who are ready for a fight. They're just ready for a fight. They're just looking for it. And they're operating in this warrior mentality. They may be calm and kind. Listen, I've seen warriors be calm and kind and nice and polite and joyful and peaceful, but boy, they are ready for a fight. Drop a pin, straw that breaks camel's back, man. They are ready to kick somebody's ass, and they will find somebody. Sometimes, listen, drop an M in the chat if you know somebody who's ready to make up some kind of BS for a fight. They're just hankering for a fight. They're ready to make up stuff for a fight. See, that's your warrior. Here's the challenge. You want to be the king of your kingdom. I want to create $1 million income. I want to create a $10,000 a month income. I want to be the queen of my kingdom. Listen, your queen's not running around bitching about people on social media. That is not your queen. And if your queen is not in charge, then you are going to be in pain. Your warrior seeks significance. Doesn't that make sense that warriors would seek significance? They need to be in charge. Don't they bow up every time there's an issue? Aren't they on hair trigger alert? Aren't they ready to just shoot? Shoot first, ask questions later. When you find your peace, that's not in your warrior. I'm not saying you can't kick the warrior out of the kingdom. The warrior is going to be a part of the kingdom. So tomorrow we're going to go deep into this. I'm going to ask you questions on how to make sure they have their significance without having their say-so, how they can become important, how they can be loved in their position. See, the challenge is how many of us know people that after a fight, we wind up beating up ourselves? Drop a B in the chat if you've ever had a fight and then you're like, oh, why did I do that? Why do I do that? Drop a B if you blame yourself. Here's what happens. That was your warrior stepping out. That was your warrior that was in charge. Your queen understands it as discipline. Your warrior sees it as a fight. Your lover sees it as there's no problem, there's a solution. The challenge is too many of you when you do operate from your lover is so scarred, so wounded, so beat up that it winds up giving away the kingdom, thinking that's going to give love, that's going to bring love. That is not the responsibility of the lover. You need to have your sovereign, the king, the queen in your position, but you give away your lover, and it could be a female figure or a male figure that's the lover in your world. A lot of times people associate the lover with the female side of it, but it could be the masculine side of your position needs to be. The masculine one in your community needs to be the lover. The challenge is when the lover's in charge, you give away shit you never thought you'd give away. You give it, not only do you give it away, but you give it up. How many of you have ever had a relationship where you're like, I can't, they just want me for my body? I have never had that. I have never had anybody say, I want Sean for his body. Right? They just haven't. So I say all of this to say, when we decide that we are going to have this conversation, when we are going to have this position, when we are going to move forward, a couple of things have to happen. If you're going to show up tomorrow, go to eventswithsean.com, so that you can be in the Zoom tomorrow. This isn't broadcast live. Let's show up and get into the Zoom tomorrow, eventswithsean.com. And those of you that registered will get the 25-page workbook. It's a 25-page workbook. It's going to be a full 2-hour session tomorrow. Why? Because when you understand your archetypes, when you understand the position that you have, when you understand how you can move in and out of these 4 major archetypes, and there's about a half dozen others. Imagine this, listen carefully. Imagine if you had an archetype that was in your kingdom, that was in your sovereign court, that was a healer. What would the healer do? What would the healer's responsibility be for your kingdom? For your kingdom. This is moms a lot. Right? Moms are the healers in the family. They have the ability. I believe God gives them the ability to heal their entire family. So tomorrow, 8 a.m. Central, be on the call. Join us in the community. Join us in the Zoom room. Invite everybody you want, because this is going to be a powerful understanding of why you're stuck where you're stuck. Your warrior is in charge, and you think you're being kind and polite. Listen, Jason Statham, I think it's Jason Statham or whatever his name is, but or The Rock. They're all warriors, but they play the nice guy on even in Tooth Fairy. The Rock played, I think it was The Rock played in Tooth Fairy. Wasn't he the Tooth Fairy in the tutu? Even he played nice, but boy, he kicked some ass too. So my point is this: too many of us are operating from our warrior. Too many of us are operating from our warrior. And if we operate from our warrior, everything is a fight. How many of you have heard the phrase, if you're a hammer, everything's a nail? If you're a warrior, everything is a fight. Even a prospecting conversation is a fight. Imagine what happens if you speak from your elegance side, from your sovereign side, from your royalty side. And I love that, because royalty is on my YouTube channel right now. And she's sitting there, this amazing royalty. She says that I am royalty. This idea that we can operate with love and compassion. Oh, and then there's the magician. Some of you have never met your magician. You know why? Your magician is cowering in the corner because every time they came up with a simple solution. How many of you, drop an S in the chat if you've ever had a simple solution? Let's just start there. Drop an S in the chat if you've ever had a simple solution. And then drop a C if it ever got complicated as hell. How is it possible that you come up with this most amazing, beautiful, simple solution, but then it becomes complicated? You know how it becomes complicated? Because the magician stopped his authority. The magician stopped having the center stage in your life. And the warrior came back in and said, sit your ass down. There's nothing simple about this. We got to kick somebody's ass. We got to blame somebody, right? If you're in the blaming mode, I don't understand algorithms, warriors. Who the hell needs algorithms? I don't understand challenges. I don't understand. I don't understand this thing. I don't know. I can't afford the UPW that Tony Robbins is offering in his 5-day challenge right now. I can't afford Sean's thing. That's too much. It's stupid. Who spends $1,200 on a 12-week mastermind online? That's your warrior. That's your warrior saying, if you wind up learning all of this stuff, if you come to the event tomorrow, if you come to the workshop tomorrow, you're going to get your ass kicked. And the warrior is going to sit in the corner lovingly. The warrior is going to get his ass kicked. I don't care how big your warrior is. It's the questions. When you finally ask better questions, right? You want better answers, you get better questions. And when you finally get to ask these questions to yourself, and you ask the questions of that identity, it is simply an interview process to redefine their authority. See, the challenge with the warriors, they take over and nobody's going to fight the warrior. I promise you, some of your warriors are 20 feet tall. Some of your warriors are 20 feet tall, and you are scared to hell and back because of them. You're afraid to take a chance. You're afraid to take a risk. Drop an R in the chat if you're afraid to take a risk. Oh, so you might even not drop an R in the chat, because that would become truth. And when the truth starts to show up, that is your warrior. Let me ask you, when you decide to take this risk, is there a chance it might work? Listen carefully. Drop a W if the risk might work. Drop a W if this risk, there's a chance that it works. If you have some proof that it might work. The only reason it's not going to work is because your warrior won't let it. This is the archetype. This is where we've all become because of the pandemic, because of COVID, because of social media, because of isolation, because of insulation, because of your company going broke, your company changing a comp plan, they're getting rid of this product, the price of your product. We have all become very defensive about everything in our life. And every time we go to do something, we are in a battle. Well, it's time to change that. And the reason that our warrior is the one that's always so strong, is the one that's always stepping up to protect us. Listen, your warrior isn't trying to beat you down. Your warrior is trying to protect you. And what would a warrior protect you from? More pain. Well, why are you in pain now? Because you're speaking, you're operating from your wound, not your scar. You have things that are 5 months old, 5 years old, 5 decades old, that you're still operating from this open wound that has not healed, because if you healed, you'd have to move on. We'd have to let you out of the emergency room. We'd have to let you out of the hospital. We'd have to let you out of this thing called the pity party that you're in. Did he just say my life's a pity party? I'm not saying that, but I said it, but I'd never say that to you. I only say that to people who I mentor and coach personally. And since I'm not coaching and mentoring you personally, I would never say your life is in a pity party. But if you were my student, if you were my mentee, I would say your life's in a pity party, but I'd never say that to you. I'd never say that to you. I'd never say, come on, wipe your tears. Let's get on with it. Go change your shirt. It's so filled with tears. It's got salt stains on it. That's how much you've been crying about the shit that you don't even have control over in your life, because your warrior's in charge. You're looking for everything to be a fight. And for once in your life, tomorrow, you're going to have a conversation with that part of you, with me on your side, to finally have the warrior sit down and take their proper place, to perform their proper position, to perform their proper protocol. And when that happens, your life will change forever. See, the thing about this conversation tomorrow is that this will last you a lifetime. And there will be so much that you can implement immediately as we're doing this. There is no delay in this conversation. There is no program to buy extra after this. Now, if you want to go deeper, yes. If you fully want to understand that and the half dozen other archetypes that exist, the prince, the princess, the queen, the king, the healer, not just the sovereign, And then we can get into the archetypes of all of your archetypes, which is your generational curses that you're wanting to break. Drop a G in the chat if some of you want to break generational curses. Easy for me to say. See, here's the challenge. You're fighting by yourself. You're one person against thousands of your history. There's no way you'll break these generational curses. I'm breaking generational curses. How many of you have been the first to university, the first to college, the first to graduate? You realize that was a huge educational generational break? The challenge is it doesn't do anything for your money. How many of you have degrees that don't do you a damn bit of good? Listen, I'm not trying to be an ass today, but I'm wanting you to wake up. It's time for you to wake up. It's time for you to have true balance. And the true balance is that nothing is ever going to be in balance. And you wind up living this dream that I'm the first one who went to college. Great. That and 35 cents get you what? Not a damn thing. How long are you going to hold on to all of these things, all of these educations, and you're still broke? Listen, none of it's paying for your success. You keep paying for it. You keep buying it. You keep getting all of these books and all of these seminars and all of these workshops, and you're still stuck. How's that working for you? I'm sorry, but that's because your warrior is attending them. And here's how you know if your warriors are attending them. Listen carefully. You say, I know this stuff. I've heard this before. And then you get mad at yourself. How the hell could you get mad at yourself? Listen, if somebody tells me they love me and I know they love me and I hear they say they love me, I never go, no, I knew that. Shut your ass up. I know that. Don't ever tell me that again. Don't tell me something I know. Are you kidding me? This conversation powered by ketones. You want to sharpen your brain, reach out to me for ketones. How could you ever say to somebody that just stop telling me you love me? You told me once. This is BS, belief system and bullshit. When you attend an event, you go, I've heard this before. You've never heard it before. I don't care if they were reading the same script. So tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., go to eventswithsean.com, get signed up. Go to eventswithsean.com, get signed up. You'll get an email this afternoon with the 25-page workbook. Now, you don't have to print it out. You can write in your journal, but it is a fill in the pages workbook. It's not 25 pages of content. It's 25 pages of questions that you're going to ask each of the archetype that we're going to go over tomorrow. And I'm going to walk you through some hypnotherapy. I'm going to walk you through some conversations that will allow you to have access to these different archetypes and to understand them. So if you're ready for that, drop an R in the chat. If you're going to share it with somebody, you're going to invite somebody, drop the eventswithsean.com and invite people. Here's the thing. How many of you think you could invite 10 people? Anybody who invites 10 people or more, I'll put you in a drawing for $100. Why? Because it's that important. I need you to have this in your community. I need you to have this because now once the workshop is over at 10 o'clock tomorrow, you'll get to go have a conversation with people about their archetypes. And they got to show up. You can invite 100. They got to show up. They got to show up you got to sell it so that they show up. You got to sell it so they show up. You got to have them on the event. And then you'll be in a drawing for $100. Right? Because I'll have my team, I'll have my staff monitoring the chat, and they'll find out and they'll count how many of your invites are here. Just saying. So if you want the meme that's behind me, it's on Instagram. I mean, I think it's an Instagram, but you can grab it. The 4 archetypes is what we're going to be talking about. So there you go. Are you ready to have more of what you want, less of what you don't? Are you ready to sit the warrior down? Are you ready to stop being exhausted every time you go to bed and exhausted every time you wake up? Because your warrior is working the hell out of your nervous system. Your nervous system is fried. Your nervous system is wore out. Your hippocampus and hypothalamus are like, screw you. Every time you go to use them, they're like, we're on vacation. The hippocampus you're trying to reach is no longer available. They need a break. We need to stop the amygdala from being activated with the simple drop of a button. And as soon as we can calm down the amygdala, as soon as we can start activating your prefrontal cortex, and we can get your anterior cingulate cortex going, and we get your anterior cingulate gyrus going, we can get the right things going in your brain. We can have some activity in your brain. I'm going to encourage you, drink a lot of water before the call starts. Drink a lot of water before the call starts, because your brain is 20% of your consumption of all of your resources in your body. And tomorrow it's going to need some fuel for the new neural connections. Your neural connections for 2 hours are going to go from 1,300 to 2,600. We're going to double your learning capability. We're going to take micro bursts of education and memory, micro bursts of it, 10, 15 seconds of doing nothing. Have you not heard about microbursts when you're doing massive training, in-depth training? You can't listen for 2 hours to anybody. You can't listen to the person you love for 2 hours. You're like, holy crap, would they shut up? You have to have these microbursts of absolutely, when you allow short-term memory to roll it up into long-term memory, because the brain knows there's more coming. The brain knows there's more coming. The brain knows there's more coming. It needs to do stuff with all of this stuff. It's added into the short-term memory. So you probably haven't heard that before. That's because you've not had somebody teach you who's a brain trainer. Just saying. eventswithsean.com. Tomorrow, begin the process to finally understand why you're tired of being tired. Tomorrow, begin the process and understand why you're finally sick of being sick. And when you understand you have the authority to no longer be sick, to no longer be tired, imagine what happens in your life in 72 hours when you begin to live stressless. Not stress-free, stressless. And in understanding that, everything you want is as close as your skin. Right now, your warrior is telling you it's years off, it's decades off, it's months off, it's weeks off. Everything you want is as close as your skin. And tomorrow, you're going to realize that. And you're going to have some pretty cool awakenings. I know, because I've been doing this for a while. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I am your head archetype brain training misfit. I will see you all where? Tomorrow with eventswithsean.com. Share it out. $100 prize for getting people there. Just getting people there. It's not even a paid seminar. Oh, by the way, yeah, I will get your email. Oh my God, he's got my email. Yeah, then big deal. So I love you tons. I'll see you where? Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, eventswithsean.com. Till then, thanks, everybody. Have an amazing archetype-filled day, and watch what happens if your warrior takes a seat. Because now even the fact that we talked about it, your warrior's like, oh, can I go sit down? I'm exhausted. I'm killing everything. Not, excuse me, bam, and it just kills it because it's exhausted. It doesn't want to even fight. Give it a chance to sit down. Watch what happens to you day to day. You'll say things to me tomorrow in the chat. You won't believe what happened. I love you tons. I'll see you where? Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Thanks. Eventswithsean.com. Till then, bye for now. And YouTube, love you tons. See you tomorrow. Gotta get on the show. Gotta get on the Zoom. Eventswithsean.com. See you where? At the next event. Till then, bye for now. I love you tons.